You ever wondered why people like Valentino Rossi, the Marquez brothers, Jack Miller, a whole myriad of world-class level road bike riders actually spend a lot of time on dirt bikes? Well, in this video, I want to talk about the obvious reasons for doing that and also the not so obvious reasons which might impact your thoughts about what you ride and how you practice for your sport bike riding. You'll see behind me I've got a couple of bikes. I've got a BMW S1000RR Superbike and I've got a Brap MX450 dirt bike. Now when I wheeled the dirt bike into the shed, people ask me why did I go and buy that dirt bike? And the reason to me is quite obvious. What I want to do is I want to practice on that in order to become a better superbike rider. Now the reasons for doing that and using a dirt bike, there's going to be some obvious ones and there's some not so obvious ones. I can think of three obvious reasons why a dirt bike is going to serve you as a sport bike rider or a superbike rider. Number one, bike fitness, right? There's nothing like riding a dirt bike hard in the bush or in a tight, twisty area to really get your heart rate up and get yourself bike fit. So that would be my number one goal, particularly as an older rider. The second reason is when you're riding a dirt bike, anyone who's ever ridden one knows that the bike moves around quite a lot. So you get very used to a motorcycle moving underneath you, which is an important part of becoming a fast superbike rider. The third reason is that when you're riding one of these bikes here, the bike's going to move around a lot, as I said in the previous point, but you get very good at riding that motorcycle and not getting tight on the bars, allowing the bike to do its own thing. Because as we know, bikes are inherently stable, and when the rider interferes with the movement of the handlebars and the movement of the motorcycle, where it's trying to correct itself, they inadvertently create instability in the motorcycle. So you get very used and very comfortable to not only the bike moving around, but you riding in the bike in such a way that you're letting it do its thing. Now, the not so obvious reasons, and these are things that people often don't think about. In order to explain how that connects to the road bike and the superbike, I first want to explain two concepts, and that is the concept of an open loop system and the concept of a closed loop system. An open loop system would be like a fan in a house. You basically switch it on. Now, it just goes on, runs flat out or to whatever speed you set it at, and it doesn't adjust itself. That is called an open loop system. A closed loop system would be more like the air conditioner, where it is turned on, it monitors the environment and it gets feedback, and then according to the feedback it adjusts what it is doing. That's called a closed loop system. Now, if we map that into motorcycle riding, let's just put it into the world of a superbike. An open loop activity on a motorcycle would be changing the gears, and that is where you simply pull in the clutch if you've got one, or if you've got a quick shifter, you just slam the gear into the next gear. There's no adjustment, there's no monitoring so that you can adjust the action part way through the action or even adjust it at the end. It's just an action that is completed in an open loop format. A closed loop action on a motorcycle is a little bit different. So we've got two of them that that really stand out and give me a reason to use a dirt bike. The first one is the throttle, right? Good throttle control comes from a closed loop activity. And that is where you're rolling the throttle in such a way or at a rate where you can monitor the feedback. The feedback is going to be movement of the bike or what the bike is doing, and you can adjust what you're doing as you're applying or doing that action. That is a closed loop system. Now, the second closed loop system or closed loop action that we need on a motorcycle is the application of brakes. It's the braking part of it. An open loop way of braking would be where you just grab the brakes and you slam them on, right? That's not how we brake effectively. The way we brake effectively is we squeeze the brakes on at such a rate that we can monitor feedback. We can squeeze them to the point where the bike is at its optimum stopping. If it breaks traction, you can adjust the amount of squeeze that you've got applied there. So you've got these two closed loop actions that you need to get good at. If you are doing throttle control and doing braking in an open loop format, that is where you're snapping the throttle on or grabbing the brakes quickly, right? You're doing it in such a way that's going to eventually bite you. Good riders have closed loop actions when it comes to throttle control and braking. Now, put that onto a motorcycle, on a dirt bike. Flat track riding. You ever wondered why Valentino Rossi spends so much time out there doing the flat track at his ranch over there in Italy? Well, in flat track, there's a lot of drive and steering conducted by the throttle. So the throttle